What's up, Taiwan? I'm Liao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The death toll from an earthquake in Myanmar has risen to more than 1,600, according to the country's ruling junta. More than 3,000 are injured and dozens are still missing. Louise Watt reports.
The aftermath of an earthquake in Myanmar. In the city of Mandalay, another building collapses. 2 days on, the magnitude 7.7 earthquake has killed more than 1,600 people in this Southeast Asian nation already grappling with civil war. In this former 12-story building, more than 90 people are feared trapped, including this man's wife. For him, some hope. She has been found under the rubble.
In
the wake of Myanmar's deadliest natural disaster in years, its military rulers are letting in foreign aid, including from China, India and Russia. But getting aid to those who need it will be hard, with thousands of buildings damaged, as well as airports, bridges and roads. Hospitals, some also impacted, are struggling to cope, adding to the sense of desperation among survivors. Howard Jang and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Here in Taiwan, teams are on standby, ready to help with rescue efforts in Myanmar. The National Fire Agency has assembled a 126-member search and rescue team, including doctors, nurses, and technical experts. A 40-member team from Pingtung County in southern Taiwan is on standby, waiting to be dispatched by the Foreign Ministry. That same team previously took part in rescue efforts after the 2023 earthquake in Turkey. Meanwhile, local charities are stepping up, launching donation drives to support relief efforts. The Washington Post is reporting a secret Pentagon memo that shows the U.S. could make deterring a Chinese invasion of Taiwan its top priority. The memo, signed by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, directs the U.S. military to shift resources toward the Indo-Pacific, prioritizing China over its focus on Russia and conflicts in the Middle East. It also called for increased pressure on Taipei to boost its defense spending. Hegseth has stressed Japan's importance in deterring Chinese aggression in the Taiwan Strait, calling the country indispensable.
I look forward to discussing the need for credible deterrence in this region, including across the Taiwan Strait. And Japan is our indispensable partner in deterring communist Chinese military aggression.
The defense secretary was speaking to his Japanese counterpart Nakatani Gen during a visit to Tokyo, part of his first trip to Asia in the role. Hegseth called Japan a cornerstone of peace and security in the Indo-Pacific. His comments suggest the U.S. Trump administration will continue to work with allies in the region to counter China. Former Taiwan People's Party Chair Ko Wen-je was briefly released from detention Saturday night for a hospital visit. Ko had complained of discomfort earlier this week, which his wife says was caused by blood in his urine. The Taipei District Court says his health check came back normal, but the detention center will continue monitoring him. Ko remains in custody on corruption charges linked to his time as Taipei mayor and during his run for the presidency last year. Taiwan's ruling political party had an unlikely candidate running its office in the U.S. for over a decade. I went to Washington, D.C. to meet him.
Taiwan.
Italian-American Michael Fonte speaks one of Taiwan's native languages. He's fluent in Taiwanese Daigi, known by some as Holowe.
That's me studying Holowe, 1967, in Taitung, son-in-law.
Fonte learned it working as a Roman Catholic missionary in central Taiwan back in the 1960s. From those beginnings, Fonte would go on to become a prominent figure in Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party. He's good friends with former President Tsai Ing-wen and current Vice President Bi Kim-hsiao.
She's really a very warm person. You might not see that in action unless you got to know her well. So I consider her a real friend. I think she considers me a friend as well.
His house is decorated with honors and letters given to him by President Lai Ching-te and former Foreign Minister Joseph Wu. But Fante's name doesn't make headlines in Taiwan because he's mostly been in the United States, working for the DPP in Washington, D.C. How did Fante land that job? Well, he left Taiwan in 1970 after realizing that the social justice work he wanted to do just wasn't viable under Taiwan's authoritarian government at the time, which had imposed martial law.
I mean, one of my problems that I had when I was there was that the Roman Catholic hierarchy was not willing to see us do anything that would upset the government. Okay, Lao Deng.
Fante then pursued an Asian Studies degree at the University of Michigan, where he met leading Taiwanese democracy activists Peng Mingmin and Lin Zhongyi.
This one I really treasure because the woman I mentioned to you, who was Lin Zhongyi's daughter, Hyokbun, gave it to me.
Taiwanese Dai was at the time perceived as the language of the dissident community, and Fante's proficiency helped him become a conduit for democracy activist exiles in the U.S.
I know it was considered a bit of an irritant that we were studying Taiwanese, we were speaking Taiwanese, still an awful lot of nervousness on the KMT side about these people going to rise up.
Here we go. This is hard.
After a few years in California, Fante reconnected with Peng Mingmin in Washington in 1986, the same year the DPP was officially founded. Shortly thereafter, U.S. NGO, the National Democratic Institute, invited the party to Washington.
So Peng said to me, go be their gopher, take them around. So I did that, and I got to know all the founders. That's where I met Choi Ren, all the other people, Saljin Zhong, people like that.
Cho and Su, leading DPP figures who went on to take government positions in the 2000s, helping the party expand its presence abroad.
I worked for 10 years as a consultant with Xiao Bi Kim and Choi Ren. There was a DPP mission here from 1995 to 2000. Bi Kim was actually in charge of it for a while.
And when the DPP reopened its U.S. mission in 2013, the party tapped Fante as the office's director. Bi Kim-hsiao, now the country's vice president, had gone on to become a legislator in Taiwan, and Fante was a staunch friend of the party.
I speak English. I know the Washington scene fairly well. I've got my degree in Asian studies, whatever the hell. It all worked together to make me a viable candidate at that point.
Fante was the perfect go-between for the DPP and U.S. policymakers.
Our job is to be as honest as we can with the DPP about what we're hearing here about policy from a variety of sources, mostly from the government in power here, but also the opposition as well.
Fante has since passed the torch as DPP's Washington director, but his love for Taiwan is still very much a part of him.
I'm Italian-American, and when I got to Taiwan, I realized family, food, and friends, right? It's the same for Taiwanese, it's the same for Italians. So it's very easy to feel part of that culture and make a lot of good friends.
From Brooklyn, New York, to the farms of central Taiwan, to Washington, D.C., Michael Fante probably never imagined that his early years as a missionary would spark a career in politics. And the Democratic Progressive Party probably never thought that one of its biggest overseas champions would be an Italian-American fluent in Dai. Leon Lien, Laurel Stewart, and Leslie Liao in Washington, D.C. for TaiwanPlus.
Western classical music has over 1,000 years of history, but has since found new audiences and performers from countries and cultures around the world. So what does it take to become a world-class classical musician in the modern era? Reese Ayers spoke with renowned Taiwanese-American cellist Kenneth Guo to find out.
So first, let's start right at the beginning. How does a young Taiwanese-American boy get interested in classical music?
Well, I was about 4.5 years old, and I had no idea what a cello is until a cello teacher actually came to my kindergarten and started teaching a friend of mine. And so my mother saw that. She's like, you know what? I want my kid to learn how to play the cello. So I thought cello is one of those things that you put on the ground and strum, with your finger, like a guzheng. And then, but later did I know you have to put it between your leg and you play, and then next thing you know, I'm a world-class cellist many years after.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, it should be, actually.
Well, speaking of which, how much training goes into becoming a world-class cellist? What differentiates a great cellist from the best?
Well, I think I was very lucky to have the greatest instructors, and I have great teachers from each part of my cello career, from the beginning to my last teacher. I have 5 teachers in total, and they were all perfect for each stages of my life. And having a great training actually sets you up for being a world-class cellist. But to become a better cellist than that, it takes passion, takes talent, takes perseverance. The world is full of no's, you're not good enough. But music, it speaks to you, and music opens a lot of doors. And I think I'm one of those opportunists that have taken advantage of when the doors open, I try to go through it.
And so you've since performed for Taiwan President Lai Ching-te, his inauguration.
Right.
You performed in the Met Stadium in New York City.
Yes.
How do you prepare for shows like that?
There's so much that you could prepare musically. And I think that for me, music, as a professional, it comes more natural than, like a baseball player pitching that ball down to, the catcher and made a strike. For them, it comes natural. And for me, to be able to play is natural part. But it's going up there, giving a speech, congratulate the president, or being able to wave to like 40,000 fans in a stadium, because, normal cellists, they play in concert halls, a few hundred people, at most 1,000. But when you're in a stadium, it's unreal, or when you're playing, the president's right there looking at you. But I think the more exciting thing was getting the phone call, from the organization, from the president's office, says, hey, the president wants you to play at his inauguration. And what an honor, and also what an honor it is to play the national anthem, U.S. national anthem at the Met Stadium, and being the first cellist ever to do that.
Can I ask about your experiences being an Asian performer in what's typically, historically, a Western genre of music?
Well, in the past about 20, 30 years, there are more and more Asian classical musicians starting to show up in many parts of the institutions, in New York, such as Juilliard, and Curtis Institute, Manhattan School of Music. Asian, for some reason, the culture respects classical music in terms of higher education, higher classicism, higher culture. So it has been embraced so much by the Asian educational system that as an Asian and Taiwanese, I never really felt that it is a disadvantage being Asian in the world. But of course, as an Asian musician, your challenges of getting a job and everything is pretty much the same, because basically, if you're good, you get gigs. But at the same time, because there's so many Asian musicians these days, it becomes more competitive among the Asian music field. So I would say that it is even more difficult to be an Asian musician in Asia than it is being in Western countries.
That was classical cellist Kenneth Guo. You can watch the full interview with him on Zoom In, Zoom Out by visiting our website or YouTube channel. And thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, take a look at these mosques around Dubai lit up for Ramadan. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.